Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life.
By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief?
Welcome to It All Starts Here, the podcast powered by ESCP's Option E, where we explore how bold ideas can turn into meaningful impact.
We are your hosts. I'm Doralice
And I'm Maxim Hadada.
Each week, we dive into the world of impact-driven entrepreneurship, speaking with founders and change makers who are redefining what it means to build a business with purpose.
From reshaping supply chains to pioneering new business models and redefining how companies grow, they show us that change doesn't just happen, it's created one decision at a time.
So whether you are an aspiring founder, a curious student, or simply someone who believes business can be a force for good, you're in the right place.
Let's jump in. It all starts here.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of It All Starts Here.
We're joined by Nicolas Rizk, co-founder of Campus Fund, the first French VC fund dedicated to backing startups launched by students and recent graduates.
Nicolas is helping turn campus ideas into real companies, supporting young founders at the very earliest stage. We are excited to dive into his journey and vision. Enjoy!
Before we get into the interview, let's introduce the topic. Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about financing. It's a very important part of the life's journey of a startup, and it is something founders will have to keep thinking about during their adventure in growing the company. So let's get into it. There are many options for a startup to actually finance itself. The most classic one we could say is bootstrapping. What does it mean? It means that the company finances its activities through its own savings, its early revenues, and its operations itself. What is nice about bootstrapping is basically how clean it is in a sense. It requires no dilution, it doesn't force the company to have any seats whatsoever, and it forces, in a sense, the startup to build something that the customers actually want, and generally pretty fast because the company needs money to finance itself. Other options are also grants, which is another type of non-dilutive funding, and very important, especially in innovative startups such as university linked ones. Where do you get them from? It's usually from institutions like BPI France in France and other European funds, regional programs, and research linked grants. Another type of financing that nobody talks about is bank loans. Bank financing does exist and doesn't get talked about enough, but it is actually a very interesting type of financing, especially if the conditions are right for it. So people should consider it. Another one is also crowdfunding, which is more than just money. In a sense, that is a very powerful strategy that has two main types: reward-based crowdfunding and equity crowdfunding. And it isn't just only about financing, but it also gives marketing and builds community and an early validation for the product your startup is trying to build. And last but not least, strategic partnerships. The company could build strategic partnerships to be able to replace traditional VCs, basically through corporate partnerships, for example, or strategic investors themselves. There are companies that collaborate or can co-develop with you your solution. So yeah, a shout out to angel investors that usually are very present in the very early stages of a company, and also seed strapping. That is basically bootstrapping with a twist, where the company could raise only one seed round and then try and grow its revenue itself. Now let's get into VCs. Thank you, and here you go, Dora.
So, as we've seen, there are many sources of financial capital for startups, but now we take a closer look at venture capital specifically, since it's the topic we will explore with our guest later. So venture capital is a form of private equity, which means it's an investment that is made towards companies that are completely privately owned. and not traded into the financial markets. And basically, a venture capital fund is a pool of money that investors put together to finance early stage startups that have high potential of being successful. So, in simple words, a VC fund gives money to these startups so they can develop and grow. But in exchange, they ask for owning a small part of the company in equity. So, the main pro of getting money from a VC is that they can provide levels of funding that you never get from a bank or by bootstrapping, which is very important, especially in specific industries such as tech, AI, where the financial capital that it's needed at the beginning is very high. Also, they do not only bring money, but they bring real expertise. Usually, each VC has a field of expertise. So they have mentorship, they have industry insight, they have experience in scaling companies in the market, and they also have very extended networks. So VCs are not only important for the financial side, but they bring a lot of knowledge, they bring a lot of other value that actually can make your startup big successful, and their network can make they can open new doors to customers, talent, new investors. So they are, of course, one of the main players in the financing of startups. They are one of the most important and talked about sources of financing. But even though VCs are super popular, very talked about, and are, of course, one of the most important sources of funding for startups, it's also important to um, bring up some cons in VCs. So, first of all, it's not true that they are a requirement for success. As statistics say less than 1 in 1,000 startups actually raise venture capital, and also more than two-thirds of small businesses rely on personal savings for initial funding. So there is this myth that either you secure funding from a VC or you fail. This is not true. This is not the reality of things. There are some sectors that do require high amounts of money to begin, but it's not the right fit for everybody. So it's important to consider this, while it's also important to consider the exchange of the money for the equity of the company. So, as we said, it is a dilutive type of funding, and as a startup, you want to be very wise when going into VCs and asking funds to VCs, because you want to really choose the right fit for you, because each VC will require different amount of control for different amount in exchange of different amount of capital, but also they will bring different type of expertises. So in order to be healthy, you really need to choose a partner that will make you thrive and will not push you to hypergrowth or push you to exit, and they just want to have financial returns from you. So it's very important to be wise in the choice of the partners, because VCs are partners. And also, it's very important to not give up too much control early on, because this is actually one of the main failure factors that startups face, is when they give up too much of the control and to have money at the beginning, but then later on they don't have enough decision making power to make their startup go in the right direction. So, considering everything, both pros and cons, it's as always the best thing to do. And now let's dive into the topic with an expert, because he's gonna bring to us insider point of view and bring us a lot of knowledge in the field. So let's go with the interview to Nicolas Rizk.
Before we jump into the next section, if you're loving It All Starts Here, make sure to follow us on Instagram at itallstartshere.podcast and share with your friends. Hey Nicolas, thank you for coming here today. First of all, how are you? How's
Yeah,
everything?
fine. Thank you, Max. Thank you, both of you.
Okay, sorry. Thanks for being here. And can you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nicolas Rizk, 29 years old. I've built and I've co-founded Campus Fund, which is the first French student VC. So we invest in tech entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, graduate entrepreneurs, young graduate entrepreneurs, and PhD and student entrepreneurs, of course. We invest ticket going from 20 to 150K across two funds. So the first vehicle, which is fully deployed now, we invested 2 million in 25 startups. This vehicle was called Campus Fund 1, and it's still active, but not actively deploying. And we also invest with Campus Fund 2, which is our second fund, uh, a 5 million fund, and we invest ticket also going from 20 to 150K. And as of today, we've made 30 deals across different geography. We invested at least 20 in 25 startups in France. We invested in Holland, in UK, and in US also, and we're backed by 100 or so LPs, which are the vast majority of them entrepreneurs and family offices.
Okay, nice, great. To comment to like the idea of how you started like the fun, we read that it was inspired by the American dorm room
Yeah,
fun. Can you maybe try and explain what that is and how did you come with the
yeah, of
idea?
course. So yeah, the big part of the inspiration came from the American DRF. So DRF is Dorm Room Fund. So when we discovered Dorm Room Fund with Roma, my partner, we realized something was really powerful about backing student entrepreneurs, uh, because no one saw that trend of entrepreneurship among the students. So we always thought that campuses could be great factories to build startup. So DRF managed to create firstly a community of student investors. So it was a huge inspiration to source deal flow, and of course invested in hundreds of founders who either built enormous and incredible companies who later have built some great companies. So DRF was led by a fund which is called First Round Capital, which is one of the main fund in the valley, in the Silicon Valley. And they deploy, I mean, at least $5 or $10 million on I think 300 companies. And we saw that trend coming from the US, and we saw that trend coming in Europe in 2021 with Romain. And we always wanted to build a company, and we were doing a finance track in our respective uni. And we say, okay, right, we'll take that model of DRF and we'll adapt it to the specificities of the French market. And we talked to 3 or 4 partners at DRF. They help us on uh, having the great the thesis fit on our market. And yeah, DRF is a great inspiration for us, and still is, of course, because they've built the first fund in, I think, 2013 or 2014, and now they've launched a second fund without first round capital. So it's a multi LP fund. So it's backed not only by a first round, but also by many LPs, entrepreneurs, and so on. And yeah, it's still a big inspiration for us.
And you
Okay, and can I ask, which are the main differences you had to adapt considering the French market? Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. So of course, the market in France is way different than the market in US. So firstly, the considering that in US everyone is doing safe. So a safe is a way to invest in a company. It's a juridical tool. So in France it was not at the beginning of Campus Fund that well known and that used by the entrepreneurs. So we adapt the model of the so first, of course, the tool, we invest in company. So we invest uh, the vast majority of time in equity. the second thing is that in France you have a program of non-dilutive track. So whenever you start a company, you have to invest 20 or 30K in your company, and you can have at least 100K in grants and in debt. Um, and they do not have that same leverage on non-dilutive funding in US. And of course, we have to adapt it to the specificities of the academic ecosystem in France. So university are not the same as in US. Management school and engineering school are not the same as in than in US. So we have to find other interlocutors. We have to find um, who will be the main source of our deal flow in France. And of course, LP are not the same in Europe than in US, and the legal part of Campus Fund is a lot different than in US. So that was the main point we had to change and adapt.
Okay. And how do you see today's student entrepreneurs in France? Like, do you see a volunteer, like a need for them to actually do like entrepreneurship? Is it like very common today here? And do you think it's evolving in some kind of direction?
Yeah, I think a lot. So just to give you a few figures, when we started Campus Fund, there were, I think, 5,000 students that wanted to build a company, and who built the company during their study. Now it's more like 10K or 15K, something like that.
Oh,
Can give you the right figure afterward if you want. And yeah, of course, I think today's student entrepreneurship in Europe is exploding. We see way more hackathons, incubators, and way more entrepreneurial programs um, happening in Europe, and more ambition also from young founders, because the literature is more mature, and anyone can now have the tools to build a tech startup. And but what we also seen 3 or 4 years ago is that the gap is still huge, because students struggle to raise their first check. They lack the operational guidance, and they usually don't have the investor network. So that's where Campus Fund comes
okay.
Okay, so a more challenging question. So the idea, would you say, was born because you had more a passion to help these students who struggled to get funding, or did you see more the market opportunity of it, or was it a mix?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix. We always wanted to build a company with Roma, and Campus Fund is the fruit of that wheel. So we we work on many ideas before, and at the end it was Campus Fund that emerged. Why? I think because of course there was that market opportunity. We were young, and I mean, who is better to invest in young people than young people? We had the deal flow because we were at uni, and we saw that many of our friends building companies had nothing uh, to had none had do not have any networks to find funds and to fund their company. So it's a mix between the will to create a company, and the will and the market opportunity. And of course, now we are passionate about helping entrepreneurs, and especially, of course, young entrepreneurs.
Okay. To talk more about your investments today, do you
Yeah.
consider like Campus Fund as an organization leans more toward like, for example, social impact, or what are the biggest considerations that you take into account when trying to choose an investment?
So when we invest in company, I think we are a fund with impact and not for impact. So let me explain myself. So we invest in a target that is underrepresented by the market. So that make us with impact, not for impact, because we not only invest in impact startup, but at the end, among 100 companies that we see a month, I would say 80% of them are impact startup. So now, regarding the portfolio of Campus Fund 1 and 2, among the 30 startups we invested in, I would say 25 startups of them are for impact. So, of course, beyond the financial returns of Campus Fund, we have a strong social mission. So we want to democratize access to entrepreneurship. Yet, we also are a for-profit organization. So, and we also invest in a niche. So we cannot have the thesis of investing only on impact startup, because it would narrow our market so much that we have to have more like an agnostic thesis. But we still invest in underrepresented founders. We run workshops on campuses. We mentor early teams, and we push students, I would say, to believe that they can build something big, right, with great ambition. So that make us a, a, a fund with an impact on it.
Okay, so continuing on this topic on how you choose your investments, what are the factors that make you say yes to a project, like the sine qua non characteristics that you're looking for when people pitch to you?
Yeah, so we look at only scalable startup, and for scalable startup um, is usually a tech company. So we invest in tech companies, in B2B startups. So we invest only in tech B2B, because for us, it's easier to have a go to market when you're a B2B startup than a B2C startup. Also, you're not, you do not rely to millions of dollars in funding when you're raising a B2B startup. Of course, it depends, but that's what we saw on the market. So we invest in tech B2B startup in a team, and the team must be young. So for us, young is what I say earlier is so students, PhD, young graduate entrepreneurs, and of course the the green flag for us are the rhythm that put the team on our exchange. So how the team pitch, how the team execute their idea, their vision, their ambition, and the of course the market opportunity also. If it's a huge market, for instance, bigger than 1 billion euros, and so those small things are building a conviction for us, and at the end it's a fit or no for the fund. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's how we assess the deal flow we see.
And when you say fit, for example, in what sense?
So it fits of for our thesis. So if the company is a tech B2B startup with a strong team that puts rhythm in our exchange, and the market opportunity is huge, and the team have a huge ambition, and we can feel that, and we have the intuition that we have to make the deal, we're doing the deal.
Okay, thank you. And on the other hand, there are any factors that make you say no? Like, are there any factors that make you discard a project that
Yeah.
maybe we can take as advice as young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I think many of young entrepreneurs lack the go to market strategy part. So in each pitch we see with Campus Fund, I mean, out of 10 startups, I think 9 of them missed the go to market strategy. And for us now, because the tech um, is it's not. I mean, it's really hard to have a defensible tech product now because the tech is available everywhere. So anyone can build a great tech stack with the tool of today. So with AI and so on. So I think now what make your company great and what make the biggest difference on your company is the distribution. So for us, when the company lack the 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 the, the power of to explain you how they will sell the product and how they will make money and how they will sell the product and how they distribute the product and what are the great channels and the go-to-market strategy. I mean, for us is a huge red flag.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
See, and now as an entrepreneur, just yourself, what were your first steps of actually starting to fund? Like, what were the difficulties and how scary was it?
Yeah. Um, so creating a fund from scratch is a hard journey, I would say. You start first by validating your model with VC partners, angel investor, DRF, for example. Also, we had to refine the thesis, and the hardest part is when you have 24 years old, 25 years old, that you do not have any investor network, so it's really hard to raise money because you're selling wind. I mean, you're selling nothing. For instance, a tech company is selling a product, so it's tangible to talk into to to for an investor to invest in. For us, we were selling a thesis with a lot of risk because we said that we wanted to invest in student entrepreneurs. No one was doing that at the time in France and in Europe, so it was hard to execute our vision and to show the world and the LPs that it could be a great financial investment. So yeah, it was a hard journey to raise money, but at the end we structured the first vehicle. So we are holding investment basically, so we have shareholders, and we built a community of student scouts, which we dropped 2 years afterwards, but it's another story. And and yeah, we've made the first investment. We made six investment in 2022, and those first is six investment were at the time pretty cool investment. So LPs and investor look at us and say, okay, right, you can execute your vision, you're able to make deals, you are able to source deal flow that no one have because you're on campuses. So that was the start of Campus Fund. So we raised 600K at first in 2022, 1.5 million in 2023 because the first investment were good. And yeah, so now we're raising the second vehicle of 5 million euros.
Okay, great. And
Great.
we wanted to also ask you, so today, how do you choose your partners? Like, how do you scout for them?
So the shareholders or the LP of the fund?
Yeah, in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we want to have people. So I will say something else. Sorry. So today we have 100 and two or three LPs. So 103 LPs. So those guys uh, invest in us for three main reasons. So the first reason is, of course, the financial return. So that's count for 40% of them or 50% of them. And those guys are more asset managers, people working on a bank, investment banking, bankers, um, and partner of fund, and those kind of profiles. So this is the first reason. The second reason is people want to um, to have a fund that I don't know how to say it, that they want to give back to the ecosystem what the ecosystem gave them during their journey. So those type of LP we have are more entrepreneurs. So these are entrepreneurs in tech in France, in Europe, in US, that want to yeah, make an impact on the next generation of entrepreneur. And the third reason is people that are just in campus fund to have access to a certain type of deal flow and to co-invest with us, and that may be 15 or 20% of them. So those are the main three reasons.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I think we can learn a lot from this conversation we've had. But for the last question, we want to ask you if you have a piece of advice you would like to give us to close this learning conversation.
um yeah, I would say something that is well known and that everyone is saying, but I'll repeat it. I think that for a student who is listening to this, here's my advice is you have to start now. Don't wait to graduate. Don't wait for the perfect idea. The first thing you have to do is talk to user, build something simple, and iterate fast. And of course, regarding the fundraising, I have three main advice that we always push to our founder with my partner Romain. The first advice is you have to create FOMO and never cold call investor. The second one is you have to put rhythm, so you have to be at top of mind to to the investor you want to talk to. So you have to make newsletter, personal branding on LinkedIn, and so on. And the third advice is to never ask for money to an investor. And I think you can raise money like that. And if you start now with the tool you have today, um, with a great distribution, you can make a great product.
Okay, thank you so much for this. It was a great discussion. I think our fellow colleagues and everybody listening would really learn a lot from this conversation. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Thanks a lot.
Well, we are very sad to make this announcement, but this is the last episode of the very first season of the It All Starts Here podcast.
It was an incredible journey. We learned a lot how to actually make a podcast, first of all, but mostly by having such great conversations with so many inspiring individuals. We are super grateful and honored to have been your hosts this season.
Thank you so much. We hope you have enjoyed it. And remember, it
It
all
all
starts
starts
here.
here.